Hi everyone, I'm Will and this is Creating Music. In today's video, we'll take a look at a song that I created that's in the key of F major. We'll take a look at the chord voicings I used, the vocal melody, also bass melody, and other parts of the songs, and also discuss a little bit about the recording process. Creating Music is a channel that is dedicated to learning about music, having fun, and also increasing music education to those who would like to learn. The song we'll be checking out today is a song that's in F major, as I said. And now the notes that make up F major are F, G, A, B flat, C, D, and then E, and then the tonic F, the octave up. So within those notes, I created, I created this piece of music that we're going to talk about today. So basically, within the track, I have piano, I have distorted guitar, I have bass guitar, I have vocal and drums. And so I'd like to start breaking that song down for you now. Taking a look at the piano part, basically what I did for the intro piece, and the intro is just soloed piano, so there's nothing else playing, there's no other instruments playing. When I have an instrument that's soloed like that, I like to try to make it more full when I look at the recording process. So the intro really is following the chord progression, and the chord progression again is in F major, starts on the 5 interval, goes up to 1, down to major 3, and then up to 5, and back down to 4. And within those notes for the intro, for the piano part, I basically play that progression for the beginning, but I play the 1, 3, 5, the da, da, da. I play those three notes, in the chord, major chord formula, and, just kind of play through those notes within the, within each chord to kind of make that intro and make the listener kind of have their ear pointed to the next piece or the first verse, and it also is a way to kind of fill up the space. Another thing I did to make the intro more full is I recorded the piano 2 times, and I hard panned one to the left and one to the right. And this process people use a lot with guitars, and it really does help out and make that part of the music really full. So I just wanted to pull up Garageband here and just take a look at the mix in Garageband. So what I have highlighted here is the actual intro on the piano, and just seeing that I do have, let's see, do have it done or recorded twice here, up in this section where the yellow headphones are, and down here where the yellow headphones are. I'll go ahead and play that just to let you hear what the intro sounds like when it's soloed. And again, that's hard pan. One's hard pan left, and the other is hard pan to the right. So when we come out of the intro, we have 3 stabs there with the distorted guitar, the bass drum and cymbal hitting together, and the bass guitar. So the way I did the distorted guitars, and so this the note that they all hit on these on these 2 stabs, that like the dun dun, that is the 5th interval in the F major scale. So I took 2 distorted guitars and I played that 5th interval, and I hard panned them, one hard left, one hard right, to create that really huge guitar sound that panning does. And then I kept one of the 3rd distorted guitar. I kept kind of going straight down the center, and I played the F major bar chord there, which is the tonic or the number 1 in the scale. So I have 2 5s hard pan, 2 5 chords hard pan, and then a 1 chord straight down the middle. And I think that does 2 things really. It fills up and really makes those 2 stabs, stand out. And it also, because there's 3 distorted guitars, they play through that measure and then they kind of drift down, kind of moving into the first verse. So that's another thing I wanted to do with the stabs, is have that be a dramatic conclusion kind of to the intro and lead the listener's ear right into that first verse. So the first verse is just piano, bass, and drums. And so the piano really just follows the chords through, and I'm back to actually hitting the chords, not playing the elements or the intervals that make up the chords as I did in the intro. Uh, and for the bass part for this first section is a little bit different for the second section. So the first section has a kind of a quieter drum beat with like a very light rim shot throughout the whole thing. And so for the bass part there, I pretty much followed the chord progression straight through, but certain parts where I felt there should be accents, I added another bass note on one of those notes, and that generally is every other note. So the second and the fourth notes, those notes that I played the fifth of that note to kind of give it a double stop. So a double stop is a two note chord generally, and what that is. It's a 1-5 double stop. So the first interval is being played, the fifth interval is being played, and generally when it's chords have two notes in them, they're called double stops. So, and that's just to add some fullness into that part of the song because there's not a lot of instrumentation, when you listen through it. Jumping back into GarageBand here, I just wanted to kind of show you in the mix the bass part that I was referring to. So it's highlighted in the green right there, and I'll play that for you right now, and then I'll add in the notes that I used as double stops. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and put in the other bass right here that's highlighted and kind of let you hear the two together. And now I'll just highlight the bass that's just doing the fifths that I talked about that create those double stops. Like I said, it ends up being just kind of pretty much every other note and just trying to fill that section up because there's not a lot of instrumentation. And the vocal melody through the first section, and it's the same through that second section, is generally playing around with those first three notes in the major scale, the do, re, mi. and that's really where the melody comes from, for the first two parts of the song. Now there is a third part that has more distorted guitar and kind of has a more melancholy mood, and we'll discuss that in a minute. So when we're looking at the second section into this song that I'm reviewing for you, and it helps me to talk through my creative process, and I hope you enjoy listening to how different people record, and I think YouTube is a great platform for that. So I'm happy to be able to use this platform to share with you, some of my creations and just really work out some of my music. So the second section, so the drums actually come in with a full snare, uh, and so there's only one snare hit throughout each measure in that section, and then where you think a snare would come on like the third note of that measure is another bass drum. So it kind of creates a really nice, steady and calm like groove, and I really like the way that it plays off, the bass part that I created. So in this second section, since we have full drums and everything playing at this point, so the bass then turns into more of expression of melody. So I think any good bass player enjoys bringing melody to a song, and that's not to say you're going to step on the vocal performance and the intervals that the singer is doing or anyone else in the song. But as a bass player, you kind of pick and choose and try to create really, really beautiful melody throughout. And that's what I tried to do just a little bit in the second section. Again, not stepping on the vocals or anything else that's going on. Through that second section, the piano continues to be the same, playing the chord progression straight through. And then, like as I said, the drums come in and they're more of an actual drum beat. Jumping back into GarageBand, just wanted to go over, or at least let play for a little bit, the second section I was talking about with the drum beat and a little bit more of a melodic bass line.
Once in a while, when I feel myself smile, it brightens up my day. I know right then that I will win, and everything goes away.
So that's the second section that I was referring to just a minute ago, and you can hear that that drum beat, has a really good groove to it, and I did add a little more melody in the bass. So looking at that third section, that the third section that comes in, so here I change the progression, and I start the first note in that progression is a major three. So I go from the major three and the major up to the major six, and that kind of creates. And bear in mind, they're not minor three and six; they're still in the major scale, but it does create a little bit of a melancholy vibe. And then you add those distorted guitars, and I think it does kind of change the mood of the song for sure, from kind of happy in the first two to more melancholy in that second, or excuse me, in that third section. And that's a way that you can take a piece of music and bring it into like a more melancholy or a more reflective piece, is to change intervals, change sounds, use different instruments. All those kinds of things I think are things that work overall. So the third section, two distorted guitars playing the main guitar progression through there, and again I hard panned one guitar all the way hard to the left and the other one hard to the right to create that big sound. The drums then come in and they're still playing that beat with only one snare hit in the measure, and kind of creating that groovy or that grooving sound that I kind of like that feel for that part. So we added the distorted guitars. We still have piano and bass playing. On the bass part in the third section, I pulled back from any melody and really just droned the lower notes. Just kind of added what that part of the song needed. I didn't want to create too much melody in there with all the big guitar sound, and just kind of wanted to stay out of the way and let the vocals go through that particular section. So when we're looking at that section, we transition into to the guitar solo, where I keep that same progression that is major third and major sixth throughout that spot, and I come in with distorted guitar. And again, if you remember my last video that I did on relative minor, I kind of took a piece of or a thought process from that video, and I'm thinking F major and I'm thinking D minor, because D minor is the relative minor for the F major scale. And again, let's remember from the last video, those in both of those different scales, it's actually the same notes, but they're arranged in a different order, so it just gives a different feel and vibe. And then also as a musician, you kind of approach and think about how you play those a little differently. So I came into the solo kind of coming up, thinking the D minor and the F major. Came up through to the point where I got myself to a bit of a higher note, because when you come into that second section, or like the repeat through that third in the third section, when you come through into the next measure, I think doing that big bend really kind of brings it in nicely. So after the bend, I kind of gets me up to a little bit of a higher note, where I start to play a little faster and come back down through kind of a hybrid scale of the F major and D minor, with a couple of bends at the end to kind of lend itself to the end of this particular this part. All right, I just wanted to jump back into the mix here, talking about that third section, and just kind of show the two hard guitar or hard rock guitar or distorted guitar tracks that I have highlighted here are the two that I double panned, or excuse me, that I hard panned to the right, and then the other one to the left. And it really does create a big guitar sound. I'll go ahead and play a little bit of that for you. And if you notice on the faders, as they were going, only the one side of the fader shows, because they are kind of hard pan, one to one side and one to the other. Now, bringing it back, I'll just let this last section, this third section, play a little bit, and you can hear the kind of more melancholy tones that it does have.
Remaining problems stay and negative my time. And these promises are left for some to find.
And now we'll go into the solo and I'll let that play. And that kind of highlights the third section. Now, when I look at the vocals and how I recorded them, I recorded 2 vocal tracks and ran those straight down the middle. Didn't hard pan those because a lot of artists will double track their vocals. It just gives like a natural chorus effect, which is super nice a lot of the time. I know a lot of artists also will maybe do like a first verse and just do 1 vocal track, and then they'll double track their voice for the second verse or other parts of the song. And it's just an added effect that really, really works out well. So I double track the vocals, throughout the whole song. I think that adds some flavor to it there. And and on that distorted guitar through the solo, I have an overdrive on that a little bit just to give it more kind of that chainsaw sound, and kind of add to that melancholy of that section. And then, at that point, the song kind of comes back around to the beginning, to the piano intro that I discussed previously. So this song was written in F major, like I said. The topic of the video, this video is really just writing in a major key and using those intervals within the major scale to really create the mood and the feeling that you want to create with your song. Thank you for watching the video today. I appreciate you taking the time. Please subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I have new and creative music coming out. Thank you.